It's another fine sunny day, and my room feels like the walls should be melting. Frankly, I wish I was sitting in a swimming pool, or a bath of ice. But anyway, on to the topics of the week. Firstly, the challenge. Oliver, the file is all yours. I had this great idea that I was going to steal all the kind of each individual words from various sources and piece it together. Like a sort of creation of Frankenstein. I did this. It took me about an hour and a half, but unfortunately some parts, especially the words like get and like, were hard to understand. So I spent less than a minute recording my own vocals. I don't consider the fact that I wasted an hour and a half on something that doomed to fail, as I guessed as I was going through the process, because I learnt about editing sound. And I got to watch the Old Spice advert. Time is never wasted with the Old Spice advert. Anyway, learning for myself. That leads nicely onto the topic of teachers. I, as Oliver is aware of, and possibly James and Max as well, am a big fan of unschooling. Unschooling doesn't require teachers, at least not in the way we're used to. My most recent adventure in teaching myself something new, I guess, is video editing. I mean, never did video editing prior to this. I'm learning it by doing, which is one of my favourite ways to learn. Most of the things I recall from school were mostly things that we learned by practical application. I've forgotten how to do most of the things we learnt at school. This doesn't mean that the teachers at school weren't any good. No. I liked most of my teachers, or at the very least was indifferent. Only 3 teachers stand in my mind that I don't like. And this isn't because they were bad teachers. In fact, they never taught me any lessons. They were just bullies, simple as. Maybe they were amazing teachers. I will never know. See, unfortunately, teachers nowadays are stuck following a rigid curriculum, at least in this country. I can't comment on education systems in other countries, because I don't live there, and haven't done any research, which is my own fault. And they have to follow this rigid curriculum with goals that each child must achieve, and they seem to fill in an endless amount of paperwork. You've got no time to pursue a topic for more than the prescribed time, and in a class of 30-ish children of mixed abilities, interests, and speed of working, it's not going to work. I've often thought of becoming a teacher, because I kind of want to be an author, and teaching seems like a useful job that you can do while writing a book, but my mum is always trying to convince me not to. She teaches 5-year-olds, which I've also taught in a class of 5-year-olds, and greatly enjoyed my time as a sort of classroom assistant, but then I wasn't dealing with the endless paperwork. I probably won't become a teacher, not in the conventional sense. You see, anyone can teach, and everyone can teach themselves. Take amphibians. I love them, especially frogs. I'm doing my dissertation next year on them, and all the independent projects and stories that I wrote as a child involved them. Nearly any piece of work that you've got before I moved to Milton Keynes had something to do with frogs. Now, I'm a zoology student. You'd think this is great, I can learn loads of amphibians. No, I've had 1 hour on amphibians, and that was it, and that's all it will be. There's no more hours next year where they'll come up. They might come up in brief passing, but never as like an actual topic. I had 10 weeks worth of bird knowledge, and I had 10 weeks worth of knowledge on mammals the previous year. But nothing on amphibians, which are one of the more diverse vertebrate groups that exist. Everything I have learned about amphibians, I have learnt from books or research I have done myself. I can remember a lot of facts about frogs, and I probably can recall more about them than things I learnt at school. We see learning as something that happens between the ages of 5 and 18-ish, give or take, and then you stop, or maybe you do a few more years, and maybe, like me, you keep going, and after that you know everything you'll ever need to know, and probably a load of extra stuff, and probably not things you need to know, like how to budget, or how to cook, or how to change a tyre on a car. But, you know, for those first 13-ish years, you have to have someone to tell you all that stuff. You can't go and try and learn it yourself, pick the order in which you learn it. You just get told. Any learning afterwards is somehow different, and it doesn't necessarily require someone else, although I'm pretty sure I wouldn't just go straight into trying to change a tyre on a car without having done at least a little bit of reading. I mean, what could teachers do differently? They can't. What needs changing is not teachers, although there probably are some teachers who could do a better job. But the education system as a whole is what requires a change. Like I said earlier, trying to tell 30 different individuals who don't have the same interest in a topic, it's never going to be as engaging as it should. I mean, no matter what the teaching adverts show on TV, turning your class into a solar system doesn't mean that everyone will recall what you did. Although I do agree that getting outside is always a good idea. But I may be biased, as I like being outside. I'm not sure I covered this topic as well as I could have. Really, I'm sorry if I didn't. But until next time, stay in school, or at least stay learning.